The 8th and 9th chapters of Amos culminate in a prophetic declaration that removes any hope of flight, an impending judgment from which physical escape is mathematically and geographically impossible. The text methodically eliminates all vertical avenues of retreat, describing a divine dragnet stretching from the upper limits of the heavens down into the subterranean bedrock of Sheol, the realm of the dead. Amos then maps the horizontal extremes. This inescapable perimeter spans from the highest elevation of Mount Carmel down to the absolute bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. This poses a severe theological paradox. We are forced to reconcile the concept of a benevolent creator with a divine operative who commands earth-shattering destruction and weaponizes sea serpents to hunt down fleeing refugees. Amos builds a highly precise, logical framework of justice within these geographic coordinates. To understand the necessity of this severe judgment, we must first deconstruct the ancient economic triggers and linguistic signs that made this catastrophic response unavoidable. The sequence of terminal judgment begins with a mundane starting point. The prophet Amos is shown a simple still life vision, a basket of summer fruit. As we see in this graphic, the specific Hebrew term used for this summer fruit is kayetz. According to the Gezer calendar, the ancient document outlining the Israelite agricultural cycle, summer fruit is harvested strictly in August and September. It marks the absolute end of the growing season. God uses this context to create a phonetic trigger. He alters the word kayetz, dropping characters to form a nearly identical sounding word, ketz. Ketz literally translates to the end. By linking these two terms, God connects the agricultural cycle to the nation's spiritual status. The final harvest is over. The time for the people of Israel is completely ripe. Through this visual and phonetic wordplay, a mundane basket of fruit transforms into an irreversible terminal deadline for the nation. What specific, localized actions by the people triggered this terminal ketz? The catalyst lies in the calculated, systemic economic fraud orchestrated by the social elite. This comparison isolates their first method of market manipulation. On the left is a standard ephah, the unit of dry volume. On the right, the elites utilized a corrupted, shrunken ephah basket to measure out grain. Simultaneously, they manipulated the currency side of the transaction. They inflated the shekel, using a heavier-than-standard physical weight to measure the silver submitted for purchase. This dual manipulation meant the buyer received significantly less product while being forced to pay more silver for it. The elites compounded this fraud by degrading the product itself, mixing literal floor sweepings and chaff into the grain baskets. This systemic abuse ultimately hollowed out the lower class. The elites began peddling human lives, buying and selling the poor as debt slaves for the paltry price of a pair of sandals. They paired this exploitation with religious hypocrisy, strictly observing the Sabbath, while eagerly waiting for the sun to set so they could resume cheating the poor. Systemic manipulation of weights and measures attacks the foundational reality of truth, forcing a cosmic-level response from the Creator. Because the elites destabilized the systems that sustain societal life, the divine response is to destabilize the natural systems that sustain physical life. God commands the sanctuary pillars to be struck, collapsing the corrupt religious centers onto the heads of the hypocritical worshippers. He then promises a severe macro-environmental disruption. Amos describes earthquakes so severe that the solid ground of the Levant will undulate, rising and falling like the seasonal flooding of the Nile River. This environmental collapse includes celestial omens, specifically the sun going down at noon, indicating a solar eclipse that wraps the land in broad daylight darkness. The final layer of judgment is a famine of the word, where God entirely withdraws his voice and guidance from the nation. The very elites who previously silenced the prophets will now stagger endlessly from the Dead Sea to the Mediterranean, desperately searching for a divine message they will never find. The punishment aligns in perfect symmetry with the crime. A society that violently silenced divine truth is met with absolute divine silence. This brings us back to the climax of Amos 9, where the prophet maps out the physical perimeter of this judgment. This chart visualizes a literary device called a merism, A merism uses opposite extremes to encompass everything inside a domain. Here, the y-axis locks the vertical extremes of existence, heaven at the top and Sheol at the bottom. Amos applies this logic to the horizontal plane, tracking from the highest physical elevation of Mount Carmel to the lowest possible depths of the seafloor. The logic of the merism is absolute. If a fugitive cannot find safety in the highest heavens or the deepest subterranean bedrock, then no location on the surface in between offers protection. Even the chaotic forces of nature are drafted into this matrix. The sea serpent is reduced to a mere obedient operative, executing God's lethal commands at the bottom of the ocean. This geographic matrix systematically destroys the idea that Yahweh is just a localized deity. It proves he is the inescapable sovereign of the entire cosmos. We still face the ultimate theological tension. How can we reconcile this environment-shattering judgment with a God who claims to be good? From a strictly human perspective, sending devastating earthquakes, withdrawing all divine communication, and weaponizing sea serpents feels excessively harsh. But prophetic literature demands a shift in perspective. To truly understand the text, the reader must look at reality strictly from the divine point of view. This diagram illustrates the plumb line from Amos 7, a physical tool used by builders to determine absolute vertical alignment. God's perfect holiness acts as this plumb line. When measured against it, he cannot allow the crooked wall of systemic exploitation to stand. Cross-referencing Amos with the book of Hosea proves that God is not a machine devoid of emotion. Rather, as a perfect sovereign, he holds his fierce anger over injustice and his deep compassion in a perfect divine tension. The severity of the judgment in Amos is exactly proportional to the scale of the society's injustice. The judgment in Amos is terrifying precisely because it is inescapable, and it is inescapable precisely because it is perfectly, immutably just.